Ladies and Germans, how are you all doing? Today it is some Steel Division. I am Con Ulrich, and here's a nice 4v4 for you guys on the Omaha map itself. Going to be kind of an interesting one, if I may say so. Indeed, we do have ourselves a little bit of a wet feet over here to the left-hand side. Let's get straight to the players, well, shall we? On the Allies side, already putting some troops down on the map is going to be High Explosive playing the 101st. With him is going to be Danan, playing as the 15th Infantry. Adding in Argle-Bargle as a 2nd Infantry, and Remen as the 3rd Canadian Infantry, so a lot of Army grunts to be expected on this map. Now, their opponents are going to be seeing I Can Count to Potato, I kind of love that name, as the Panzerlehr Division, Davy Crockett as the 17th SS Panzergrenadier, Mastodon and Rhodesians Never Die as the 12th SS Panzer. Now, Rhodesians Never Die, for some reason, sounds very familiar to me. Only Rhodesians I can think of be way back in the day of like Greek's kind of Spartan thing here. So, but you know, let's get focused on this particular thing instead. Over here on this left-hand side, we are going to see immediately Remen putting down a couple of ram tanks as well as a fair amount of, well, support. Fairly well-rounded, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Dingoes, Lynxes, Lord Carriers with AT guns, doing pretty well right there already. Next to him looks like it's going to be, oh my gosh, can't even tell at the moment. Okay, Argle-Bargle as well with a couple more pieces coming out from Remen. And indeed, we are seeing a good bit of infantry getting posted up there in the center part. Coming out next to that, Argle-Bargle looking to get some of his own particular infantry on the map. So a fair bit of well-rounded troops here. Anti-tank guns, infantry, recon, machine guns. The nice thing about Omaha over here is that there's a lot of hedgerows to fight through, so it makes it a really, really interesting map. Now, granted, over here on the left flank, it gets a lot more open. And I don't know if this is going to happen necessarily, but you can always utilize this territory down here to flank your enemy on a certain extent. Not saying you should, but it's a possibility. Moving in the meantime, we're going to be losing some action here and there on this map, so please forgive me, folks. It looks like High Explosive is going to take the extreme right. And with the early infantry advantage you probably will get with the 101st Airborne, might be a decent idea. Of course, he will have to deal with all these kind of hedgerow-type areas as well as the orchards that kind of spot the map here and there. Now, from the Axis sort of material over here, see Mastodon on the German left, with all of his 12th SS Panzer troops kind of hanging on out, probably going to push forward into this kind of town area. But even then, that town is going to be just a massive, massive pit of death. Rhodesia seems to be claiming this area right here. Shining Sea from Argle-Bargle, a little confused there. Davy, I imagine, is just going to be holding down the fort over here in the center kind of part, center right of the German position. And indeed, on the extreme right, we will see I Can Count to Potato with his own kind of very flexible fighting force. The early kind of half-tracks and heavier recon vehicles should be well matched, I think, to stack up against... Ooh, wait, never mind. That's an awful lot of infantry. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll go for the Canadians early on. I'd like to give a lot of this particular advantage early on in the fight to the Germans. Those light vehicles tend to be a lot more beefy than you could think. But the infantry could have the staying power, and the Germans may not be able to continue to produce at the same level that all of the Allied factions do. Now, if you want to go and start looking at the individual fights back and forth, I don't know if that's really the best option. Dear God, look at all the stuff that's right here. Very, very early. Okay, well, we'll see that in just a second. Rather aggressive breakout looks like coming from the Allies, looking to take these forests and maybe get a nice little firing lane down the area over here. More Canadians and Scots shifting on up, and the Canadians seem to be having a very good breakout, I would say. Flexible across the map, looking to take a lot of these forested areas. And that kind of material just seems to be, oh wow, all this stuff is unloading on top of each other. Not sure how much I really like that. Infantry and AT guns posting up in decent positions here and there. Where is this bad boy going? Okay, so he's a little far back for my taste, but interesting nonetheless. And the 101st sliding out in their own particular direction here. So yes, we are going to see the Germans trying to hold down that middle town. See if I can tune up the sound a little bit here. And at the same time, trying to go and lock down middle positions. It looks like it's going to be a very early lead to the Allies, but that's not going to last for too long, I don't think. so much of this is just all over the place. So expect to see a lot of death very, very quickly too. And indeed, we see this Pack 38 right here has already picked off a scout vehicle that has tried to jump down this road, and that turned out to be a very, very poor option. Meantime, we are going to see indeed a half-track sliding around the right-hand flank and going to push back against Remen's Canadians. Of course, though, we still have this Ram 2 tank, and this thing is pretty beastly early on. In fact, it's rather fantastic. We will see the Pack 38, though. Is he trying to move to get another position? Doesn't look like it, and it's going to be very, very difficult without shifting forward through these forests here. Now, on the German left and the Allied right, this thing's been completely locked down. Any sort of tanks that kind of come in are going to get roasted and toasted in a second. And we're seeing this pack, I'm not sure what he's trying to be shooting at here. Strange things are happening. But Allies are shifting on forward to the right-hand side. There's no Germans to kind of push them back. In the center, in the meantime, machine guns galore, as well as marauders coming out from Argo-Bargle. Probably going to see a little bit of static play, at least early on, until everyone can kind of get themselves set and ready to go. However, this Nebelwerfer right here, if we can get some good fire onto these mortars, that could shift the entire... Nope, it's not doing it. Sitting off the command carrier, looking to take out the 6-pounder. It's probably a good idea there. And indeed, yep, there it goes. That goes down. And an attack beacon comes on out from I Can Count to Potato. He seems to think that he can pierce this position here, maybe take out the 6-pounder. I don't know that's going to be 100% easy, but it is possible. 234 in the meantime, I think, has picked up one of the half-tracks over here that was holding down the Canadian left flank and is now starting to curve around these recce troops. Kind of wondering, though, well, this Pack 38, he can't quite see his pursuers, or his tormentors, really. And even then, he doesn't even have the correct amount of munitions to take care of them. All things considered, right now, it's fairly even coming in the beginning here. I would like to see the Panzer troops start pushing through this area. Yes, at this point, you have to know that there's no allies in here whatsoever. We're not going to be too focused over here for the time being. Looks like it's just kind of a little farting back and forth. Meanwhile, in the center, who do we have? So it's Davy Crockett with the Panzergrenadiers, and on his left, Rhodesians Never Die with the 12th SS. Remembering the fact that these guys are fairly beefy early on and only get worse as the game goes, especially against infantry factions, I'm a little concerned for Dannon and his Scots. I'm sure that you guys out there are going to completely disagree with me, and that's totally okay. Ammo explosion coming on out. Thank you so much. 6-pounder? No. Humber tank? No. What the heck shot at that? I'm going to guess that 6-pounder right there. And indeed, that probably was the case. Half-tracks are buying it here and there, and these Mark IV Humbers are coming on in, trying to maybe get rounds into this 234. And indeed, it's going to get the first shot off. Yes, it does. But the 234 might be able to press it on back with that light cannon that he does have. It's only a 38, but as you can see right there, it is enough to take out the crew. In the meantime, as well, Davy Crockett is bringing in a Stug as well as some more half-tracks, and I want to see, where's that Stug going to be trying to place? Right here is an interesting position. Doesn't really dominate a lot of immediate fire areas, but it will be kind of good to kind of keep the Allies at bay if they get a little bit frisky. But meanwhile, should we look back over here on the town fight? Well, we could. These Panzergrenadiers are running low on LMG ammo. These guys even more so, about 1/5 of their actual loadout. But for the most part, it seems like Mastodon is holding down the fort rather well with his own 12th SS. The 101st boys are not going to be able to do a whole lot against them with mortar half-tracks and just, half-tracks in general to keep them at arm's length. Then again, this 37mm should be able to take a couple of vehicles out should it get any sort of line of sight like that. Germans are doing kind of, it's very, I want to say they're doing better in the center here, but I think they're just as much pinned down as they were before. Nebelwerfer and ISG is getting walloped, I would just say, by these mortars. 60mm mortars doing a good amount of work here. Now, these Bazooka Rangers back here are a little bit far back for my liking. I'd like to see them be pushed a lot further forwards. Even about this stand of trees right here, you get great line of sight. A Kubo MG going down, as well as some infantry to its right. This AVRE going to be doing crazy amounts of damage if the Germans don't try to push it back. Now, it's really, really good early on, I would say, especially trying to clear away some of those positions. And you can see the Germans in this area have just been completely and totally destroyed. Stug, does he see him? Not quite. No, he's putting around to this honey instead. The honey Stewart. And we are still seeing just a 50-50 split. The Allies getting devastated on the left flank, but doing pretty well on the right. And the 101st boys have pushed their way into the town. Here we go. We're going to see some, like, very, very close CQB action. Lots of airborne engineers shifting on in. Not sure if that's really going to be the easiest fight, but they are doing pretty well so far. And indeed, their momentary attack is stalled and pushed back as mortar half-tracks continue to put down some good ranged firepower. Opal Blitz in the meantime, making sure these guys stay in the fight. And forgive me guys, the sound levels seem a little bit off. Something went wrong with my recording software, so I'm trying to refine that, unfortunately. And the firefights are very, very different than the background music here. So let me know if there's anything wrong with the sound. We will see in the meantime, though, that Rhodesians never die may not be the same, well, as true for those Germans. Those poor guys are getting falling back, getting destroyed by M1919s under Bargel's control here. What's more, we are going to see ourselves this kind of weird, very, very mobile, yet very, very awkward half-track with a 75mm mortar, howitzer in the back. But even though the Americans are starting to push in two different areas, they're starting to seem like a very stock market trend to the front line. It rises and then it's recovering, then it rises again. For the time being, I don't know who actually is doing well with this, because the AVRE is pressuring back on the Stug, and there's not a lot of anti-tank to deal with it. I mean, this guy's really good at piercing 14, and indeed, if he gets close enough, he might be able to get another round off. However, the AVRE can continue just to devastate him and push him back again and again. And the 6-pounder is doing just as well in the same sense. So while we are seeing the game slow down a tiny little bit, I want to give a quick shout out to Plastic Bedstead, who gave me a really, really great, some great feedback. I do want to put in as much as possible, but this game is not quite the easiest. I'm going to be looking to give you guys a little bit more kind of World War II trivia as we're moving forwards, and indeed trying to make sure you guys understand some of the great positions or lousy positions that get taken by this material. For the time being, though, let's focus on the fact that these Pigrens are going up against these rifles, and this half-track right here really could be pushing some real firepower into them. And with that, these Grenadiers could come in and start that jab between two different forces. Fortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to be happening like that. Now, what's more interesting to me is to see that now we have pack howitzers over here, 75mm beasts, more or less, laying down some fire into the middle of this town. And the Germans, where the Germans had positions, they're starting to get forced back here. If these engineers get their way, they're going to get some more flame on. And indeed, here we go, hand-to-hand combat. They're already stressed, so I can see these guys getting pushed back as they are forced to fall back. Half-track going down in the meantime with those airborne rifles. But no! The airborne engineers destroy the last little bit of that squad and just doing a really, really great job there. But it does not seem that Mastodon is done just yet. He's bringing in more troops just to throw them into the meat grinder that is that town. And I've always been so lukewarm about fighting in the towns. I always keep thinking to myself, wouldn't it be better just to try to push around them? Use this road right here, ignore these buildings. Yes, it's a very, very bad position to take, but if you look at it, it's not quite the nexus that some of these other roads really are. You push down this road right here, first of all, you start flanking your opponent, and you can even curve in behind him and cut off any sort of troops that are in the area. Boyd the Firefly coming in, though, and this guy, is he taking fire from this 37mm? He will soon, I would think. Yep, there we go. 3, 2, 1, and shot comes out, stressing him quite significantly, and I don't think this Boyta is going to be on the battlefield for very much longer. There we go. Fallen back, not able to cope with the battlefield stresses. And now we are in Phase B, so Rhodesian brings in that Tiga, as is another Tiga from I Can Count to Potato. And some early, well, finally, actually seeing some air power here. ME-109's making some ground runs over to into the Canadian lines. And it's Focke-Wulf right here. Where did he drop rounds down is the question. I don't know, but this P-47 Thunderbolt coming on in, and I will not be surprised. Yes, he's going after this massive collection here, so let's get a nice little change in scenery for a second. 3 bombs away. Anyone want to bet how much it takes out? Butt-ton. I believe that is a metric butt-ton, my friends. Losing a lot of material right there. Both his mortar half-tracks expect to see the 101st just below Mastodon's troops away. The Pointe de Firefly cannot stand up to all this negative pressure, and all of these rifles right here as well as Pathfinders, do have themselves some gammon bombs, some bazookas, all that kind of material. It cannot seem to be stopped. It can't be stopped. It just won't be stopped. ME-109 making a gun run, trying to suppress this mortar. We'll do a decent job of it. But all in all, perhaps not the best usage of his flight time. Indeed, there is a Spitfire over here that probably was going to push a little bit more into his troops. We are still seeing a 50-50 split on this map. The Germans are cutting off the Allies from the sea. And how weird is that? We are going to see ourselves an anti-tank gun going down, as well as a couple of surrenders, as his Churchills and Ram tanks, as well as the Mark III Humbers, are going to put pressure into those rather vulnerable crews. More infantry coming on in. Where's this recon going? Like, kind of a lousy position. Maybe he's just trying to make sure he can sneak through the force at the same position. I don't like that, though. Even putting him back over here, keeping this force kind of locked down between your own troops, it'd be much, much better than what he's doing right now. Not sure why he's really doing that. Command Churchill coming in. This guy's going to put some smackdown onto this half-track, I imagine. He's already pegging him with a bunch of machine gun fire, and here comes the cannon shot. Not quite enough, but does stress him out quite a bit. Never mind, there we go. So surrender comes on out. And a big push coming in from Davy Crockett. He is calling in, first of all, what amounts to essentially a Doppelwerfer on wheels. I love Panzerwerfers, although on this map, actually this firing position too, I'm not sure I like this firing position. Yes, it's really hard to be seen right there, but you're really, really close. Could you be a little bit further back from the front lines? I would think. Checking back in on the Allied right, and indeed what had been an Axis position has been devastated by the 101st, as it just continued to just slaughter all that stand in their way. Mastodon, it is Mastodon's troops, that's right, cannot stand in front of them. So well done over here to High Explosive and his troops. Panzer Grenadiers, in the meantime, running low on LMG ammo or out completely, which means they're not going to be able to stand up against these flamethrower engineers very easily. Let's see, what does he see? Super, super close. With the flames that he's got going down. It kind of looks like a cartoon right now to me. Like a big, big fight happening, but underneath that smoke, no one has any idea what's really going on. Opel Blitz trying to get forward enough to maybe resupply some of these Grenadiers. One squad that goes down already. Panzer Grenadier Führer, it's probably going to get wrecked pretty quickly. M2HB riddles that munitions truck with a lot of bullets. Focke-Wulf coming in. Where's he going? He's looking to take out this machine gun. I'm not sure I really... He's not even going to hit the right area. That's such a shame. Mortar half-track coming in and throwing rounds downrange. Bombs away, and I think he's going to miss. No, he's not. Wow, he targeted there and the bomb fell there. Not entirely sure how that happened so easily. Ground attack. And despite the fact that this Thunderbolt came in, he's going to go down pretty quickly. Now, Mikhail Wittmann is coming in to the front lines. He's going to be trying to throw down some firepower, but Mastodon doesn't have a whole lot really to really push back this 101st. And these lightly armed paratroopers are just dominating this entire area. Spitfires, though, might find themselves in kind of a cold reception. Even as more numbers get thrown into the battle space, there are a fair number of anti-air platforms on the field, as well as both ME-109s coming, just kind of zooming all over the place. Unfortunately, they don't seem too content about actually making runs into the enemy aircraft. Indeed, only finally coming around as we speak to put pressure into either one of them. And head-to-heads are not going to achieve much for you, I guarantee you that. This guy might finally be forced off. There we go. As this ME-109 gets on his tail, and he's going to just stick there like a tick. The question is, can he get some firepower on him? And the answer to that is, I cannot safely tell you. Until this guy gets forced away, 100% is not going to be particularly pretty for him, though. No focusing on this air combat, because I expect to see the first guy to run is going to get taken out. There's one, there's two, both Spitfires going down. And that was not a pretty sight. The Germans, in the meantime, continue to have a 50-50, getting slaughtered on their left, and doing okay on the right. Remen is going to see himself getting a lot more armored vehicles. You can see, indeed, that Command Churchill from Phase A still hangs on out. Ram doing decently well here as well. As there's another Churchill 5, Sherman 3, And lest we forget, some M10 Wolverines. But Davy Crockett seems like he wants to continue pushing on forwards. A lot of his troops sidling in behind very, very strange positions. So we have one that's going to go right about here. Probably the mortar, I would hope. And a lot of his infantry is just kind of moving forwards here as well. I can count Potato, though, throwing himself a nice P4 into the area. It doesn't look like there's any kind of anti-tank guns since I can safely see him either, so that should be a nice positive experience. Me-109 is also throwing down some rocket runs. Not going to do very much, though. Meanwhile, the 101st just continues to consolidate this position, putting rounds in the 250 half-track as well as piercing the Germans like a knife, 53 to 47. And see, this, to me, is where you have to go and create yourself a cauldron battle. If I am Rhodesians Never Die, I have to form a nice little combat group right here and knife into this back area. Yes, there's going to be anti-tank guns. I'm going to have to know that. But at the same time, for one, I'm going to have to know, based on where this guy's taking fire right here, that he can sidle on in without taking too much negative attention. Bombs away onto these rifles, goes on down. Wow, P-47 coming in. Francis Gabreski. I don't know a whole lot about this particular pilot, so please do forgive me. Looks like he's going to take out that Focke-Wulf, but the Me-109 coming in behind. Not going to be enough to take him out, though. And a nice direct fire half-track, as well as some mortars coming on in. Another Spitfire coming in to support Francis, I believe. Yes, he is. He's going after the Me-109. And this Focke-Wulf, where's he going? After 76mm, okay. Some really strange decisions happening here by each of these players. I can kind of understand it, but at the same time, I kind of can't. Meanwhile, again, the two Me-109s coming on in to go after Spitfire. Takes that one out as well. Bombs away, going after the 76mm, misses completely, but he does manage to at least pin him down. And Gabreski makes it out alive, and both Me-109s making gun runs, just suppressing all the ground positions that they can. And indeed, having that lovely, lovely loadout that he does have, he allows you to actually do any real damage, but you can do some decent kind of fear fire, shall we call it? Pointe de Hoc in the meantime, throwing down some rounds, forcing back a little bit of Argo Bargo's troops. But I'm seeing Mastodon probably getting completely masticated, as there's just so much over here now. He can't even see anything either, which is the sad part. Poor guy. 57mm, kind of in weird positions. Again, if I were them, I'd be trying to shift forward at least a little bit. He's got enough recce troops, they should be able to lock this down. I would like to see somebody maybe in this orchard. Sneak an anti-tank gun in there, and this half-track can't do very much. Indeed, it'll get pushed back rather quickly. But it seems like finally we are seeing Rhodesians Never Die shifting on forwards. We're doing some good work here. Might be able to effectively push everybody back. Of course, I say that, and of course, there's still Tripolstons to put down some good supporting fire, let's call it. And this 250 is going to get forced to surrender super, super fast. Me-109, where's he going? Out to sea. Oh, finally, Kate, going after the 6-pounder. Interesting call. I can understand it, but kind of a waste. Those are rockets, dude. Go after a freaking tank or something. Rockets away! Oh no, hey! I always expect those rockets to be a heck of a lot more effective against vehicles, but I guess rockets are rockets and will do some good damage if they manage to hit at all. SPW-233 is coming on in, and these very, very interesting half-tracks. You see right there, it's got a 75mm cannon. So not the stealthiest of things, but at the same time, a good bit of recon in a German position, which is rapidly losing it. Panzerwaffe, in the meantime, throwing down a bunch of damage, pinning this Tripolston, forcing the Dingo back, forcing back the Honey Stewart, and that's a good position right there, I would say, to kind of continue moving forward from I can count to Potato. And I love that guy's name. Meanwhile, we've been now in Phase C for quite a bit of time. And Stratton, okay, Command Steward, excuse me. Sorry about that. Dannon, what I meant to say, Scott's coming on in. No kilts, but still doing pretty darn well. And I think that Mastodon's completely lost his left. He's completely lost the German left overall. And no one's doing much to really help him out. There's enough material here that he really should be driving, and if they cut these guys off, look how much material. If they cut off even just this squad right here, look, 3, 6, 8. 7 squads of infantry, including a machine gun, as well as a Stuart tank. A couple of Stuart tanks, in fact. One thing they don't have to worry about is this M10 coming in right now. But for right now, they're not going to do anything really with it. Francis Gapreski coming back in. This Junker going to get probably torn to pieces. Poor guy. Falling back. There was somebody else who said that the Junker 87 was not obsolete. I'd have to respectfully disagree with you. While the platform itself was an effective tactical bomber, considering the relative speeds and relative capability of fighters at the time period, yeah, the Junker 87 was really great for something like the Spanish Civil War, but not so great for something like World War II, even just a bare few years later. Gapreski getting chased now by this Focke-Wulf, and the Focke-Wulf is going to get forced back. Thank you so much, Tripolston. 200 rounds of ammunition later, pretty darn good. Gapreski getting out? No, it's just the Spitfire falling away. And indeed, Gapreski's trying to come around for another kill. We'll see in just a second. If that guy does go down, it is not going to be easy. Machine guns being thrown at him from the ground. He's going to get forced back super, super fast. But this does allow Davy Crockett's men to come on in. Maybe get some command carrier damage. Ooh, rockets away. Could be able to at least pressure some guys down. So rockets come down. Don't take out anything, but stress quite a bit. And this grill is going to take some fire as well. The question is, can he put material back into the 4.2 mortar? Focke-Wulf wasn't completely stressed. Instead, he's able to pin down a couple of squads of infantry before falling back. That'd be a good call right there. And indeed, if there was enough of a push here, if these guys weren't already pinned down, this could have been a great position to, again, start knifing through. So I kind of get the feeling that the Axis are just not quite able to effectively take advantage of their air power. They're just not timing it appropriately, in my mind. Nebelwerfers, in the meantime, reloading, going to be aiming pretty darn soon. And is that a Calliope? A xylophone. There we go. So this is the kind of fun thing about the second infantry division. These guys are one of the first to use xylophone rocket launchers. Intensely interesting concept. Again, pretty much take a Calliope's rocket racks, put it in the back of a truck as the American Katyusha. That's really what it is. Very, very devastating if the unaimed rockets could do any kind of decent fire. Mosquito coming on in. This guy's thrown out his bombs already, though. And I'm wondering, will he go down because of the Focke-Wulf? Yeah, he's going to. There he goes. He's going to go out to sea. Let's see, does he still make an explosion? If a plane crashes in the sea, does it still blow up? And it appears that it does. Interesting decision. Well, interesting happening, let's call it. But all of this fails to deter the Allies completely. But we will see finally that Churchill 5 going on down. Thank you so much, Panther A. And again, we keep seeing these SPW 233s setting up in a great position to move down the beach. But against a Sherman, he might find himself a little bit outmatched. He's only got 3 armor, and that gun pierces 10. So not the healthiest opportunity there. Pioneers, in the meantime, have finally got themselves some LMG ammo, so they're going to be forcing back some of Denon's troops. But all in all, we are seeing the Scots match up rather favorably against Davy Crockett, who just seems to be running out of steam. Next to them, we probably see the best part of the Germans, as Davy Crockett and the Rhodesians Never Die are working rather decently together, but they're not capitalizing on this concentration of power. You can't just fight your own battle. You have to fight some of your opponent as well, some of your allies as well. Airborne rifles getting pinned on down. 231 doesn't charge in after that, instead falling back. Thank you so much, 37mm. Probably gonna get a shot off. There we go, bouncing rounds like crazy. And Whitman has gone down. I don't know which one of these burning hulks is him. I'm going to guess it's that one right there. Question is, who took him out? Could have been the M10, could have been the 57mm. Could not say for sure. We are seeing high explosive coming in with a 203 off-map Collins, and those will be quite good if you can identify any of his opponent's positions. Verf Raumann, in the meantime, throwing off 6 rockets, unaimed of course, freaking some guys out, but not necessarily taking any out. Now this Verf Raumann over there does take out the 37mm, and maybe, just maybe, might be able to reverse the momentum of the German left. So Argo Bargo, in the meantime, has identified the fact that if he can just come through this area, there's not much around to stop him. But the 2nd Infantry, I don't know if they can shift around in that particular direction. To put M7 on the front lines, which is a little bit of a strange decision. Panther G coming on around. What's he going to be able to see? Not much. And indeed, 36mm might get one shot off. Yep, tracks broken. So that Panther was going to be a great, great force against the Allies in the area. But when your tracks are broken, your toy is pretty much broken too. And indeed, with the broken tracks, there's not much he's going to be able to do. Gabreski's back on the field. Yep, Gabreski's back on the field. More air power though. Focke-Wulf's, ME-109's coming on in. I'm wondering if they're going for some sort of air supremacy mission. No, they're just making gun runs on the MGMCs. Weird decision. Oh no, finally, okay, so they do see Gabreski. And they're going to go after him. So we got 2 ME-109s going after Gabreski, and they keep making wrong calls here. That is such a shame. And more ME-109s coming on in. Where's the Focke-Wulf going, though? He's got a single bomb. Is he going to use it? No, he's not going to. And indeed, he's going to get forced back before that happens. Tons of ground fire between anti-air platforms, and that gets taken out by ground fire. Oh, no, okay. P-51 is the one that's going to take him on out. So, well done there. And the Allied bulge just continues. Panzerwaffe reloading. He's going to be pretty much set here in a second. And I want to see, where would he throw down a bunch of rounds? I would hope in this area right about here, maybe allow the Germans to start pushing down this road. Be a good position to throw in some firepower. Now, the 203mm, I haven't seen any massive artillery strikes happen over here, so I'm guessing it hasn't really been utilized just yet. And instead we see Wurfrahmen again and again throwing down rockets, taking out some glider rifles here and there, but not too much to write home about. As Rhodesians Never Die starts bringing in the last kind of major pieces he's got left. Hummels, Panther Gs, Davy Crockett trying to throw in some good half-tracks, and Stokes as well. And a Koenigsegg from I Can Count to Potato. But the Allied left is more or less stabilized with a lot of late-game tanks coming in. Churchill 5s as this Wolverine. Okay, maybe not in the best position right now. ME-109 in the meantime, also dropping down some bombs. I expect to see a dead mortar, and indeed I do. Spitfire coming back for his own attack. Stoßtruppen gonna get taken on out. Is P-38 Lightning? Okay, that's an interesting call. Spitfire's gonna get away. P-38 Lightning does still have a good chunk of cannon ammo, but he's smoked from 2 engines. Would not be a good idea for him to continue holding on, but he's going to continue anyway. And now here's... Okay, I think I'm going to focus on here for a little bit. It's still 51:49. Allies are approaching 1,000 tickets now. We have 15 minutes left to go in this particular game. But we're starting to see Argo Bargle maybe have a relief in his position as High Explosive is sliding in and around with some of his troops, able to push back half-tracks, starting to close the pocket over here in Rhodesians Never Die. This Panther D, in the meantime, just kick on his sights for a second. What can he see? Not as much as he needs to, I can tell you that much. Pathfinders are pretty darn close. If they can get within that 100 meters, they can be quite good against both of these tanks. So just the question is whether or not they can get close enough to them. Meantime, M3 Scout's going to pour a lot of firepower into this Pegrand, and we'll take him on out. Pathfinder's just not moving, though. They're just refusing to get drawn into combat. I wonder... Okay, they've been deactivated, that's why. It seems more important for the Allies just to go and make them threaten, so it's going to push them back just out of fear. High X, though, moving in with his machine guns, and there's a couple of Panthers coming down the road, though. So these half-tracks need to watch out, because they get seen pretty darn quickly here. Meanwhile, on the German right, ME-109 is just kind of floating over the entire area. Spitfire, Mark 9 getting some pressure here, but both ME-109s are going to get pushed back, which means the Spitfire should be able to drop his load. No, he's not. No, he is not. Focke-Wulf's in the meantime coming in as well. The Spitfire over here needs to be pressured. It needs to be taken out. It's not going to be. And indeed, he does not get enough firepower as more Spitfires are pouring on in. And I don't think the German air power can stop this. One plane going down. A second plane soon to follow for sure. And that poor bastard goes down into the sea. Now, if the P-47 finally went down, little Gabreski could really use a drink, I would say. And high explosive just continues to develop the position, develop this bulge inside the Germans. Bizarrely enough, these airborne rifles are not getting aggressed effectively enough to actually force him to a surrender. Panther, in the meantime, does go down. Pathfinder wasn't him. I think it was the Yeah, I think it was the M10. Might be wrong on that one. That was the Panther G, I think. There's another one right now. But we are going to see there's so much material on the field at this point. I don't think the Germans can kind of come back from this. Indeed, these airborne rifles have another pocket getting ready to be formed here just by falling back. Panther D going to be able to aggress on them, I dare say, but I would hope he's going to shoot instead at this M10 or the Command Sherman, one or the other. No, instead he's going to move right now. It's probably a good call there. And Mastodon still continues to be devastated. Poor guy. Ammo's explosions all over the place, and lots of Zooks are in the area. So while bazookas themselves weren't the most devastatingly effective materials, M10 gets taken out by the Panther G, by the way. I cannot see it working out particularly well for the German material on the front lines. Now, big bombs are coming down. The question is, will this Panther get hit? Or is it all just going to stress him out? Take a quick look, shall we? Bombs away. Started following him there for a second. My bad. And the Mustang is coming in. Oof. So that poor guy did go down. The ME-109's enough to impose some of their will here. And I would suggest this P-51 Mustang to retreat, even with one ME-109 taking some real firepower here. And one by one, all of the Focke-Wulfs and the ME-109s are forced back. Can ground fire take them out, though, is the question. And the answer to that is maybe. Look at all of this smoke issuing, 3 of them getting forced back. So that's going to be a lot of time spent on the airfield getting repaired. Spitfire, Mark 9, making another run. Not sure exactly what he was aiming at here, but the Focke-Wulf in the meantime as well. Going to get hit pretty hard, I would suggest. Smoke issuing from the Spitfire, but I imagine the Focke-Wulf will get hit. No, it's not going to. Spitfires again coming in. Loads and loads of Spitfires being utilized, and I have to give credit to the Allied air cover. Early on, it was not pretty much non-existent, but the second that the Germans started bringing it on in, it was like unlocking a floodgate. We are back to 50-50 spread, though. Germans are down almost 1,000 tickets exactly, but they have tons of late-game armor on the field. Panthers doing pretty darn well. They have a Koenigsegger over on their right, and it's just Panthers for days. These guys are not extinct right now. I guarantee you they're going to be doing some great damage. Fuel explosion on that poor recon unit as a Gammon bomb does take him out, closing another pocket of German resistance. And now High X has a chance to really dive in and maybe close this reinforcement line. That'd be incredible, I would say. Now, we haven't really looked at line of sight through most of this particular game. Let's try looking at it right now. So Remen, they know where a lot of German material is, but they have pretty much no idea about the incredible amount of material that the Germans do hold in their center. Now, let's say from the German side. Okay, this is very strange that they have no idea what's really in that town. I kind of wonder if they knew beforehand or not. Regardless, we are seeing the Germans trying to gear up for another attack. A lot more artillery coming on in. These SK-18s with 4,000 meter range. It's insane. Insane on the membrane. So that's going to be incredible. Practically railway guns when you think about it. I want to see these shots come in, too. The travel time on those things. Time it, folks. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so maybe I'm counting a little bit fast, but insane hang time. You thought they were in the NBA. Stug, in the meantime, is putting pressure on these rifles, but these rifles don't seem too discouraged. They take out a Panzer Grenadier squad before they get taken out themselves. And the Stug says, "See you later, alligator," and he says, no. Not for a while, crocodile. He's taking them on out there. Typhoon making a gun run against this 222, but the 222 is pretty much Winchester on its regular ammo, I would expect, and is really low on its machine guns. And some more death being dealt in the air. Are we seeing a gun run actually being utilized now by the Spitfire? Yes. So how heavy is this thing? 110 kilograms. So 250-pound bombs might be enough to penetrate it. Then again, it might not. That is a Koenigsegg after all, and indeed, it doesn't even overly stress it, which is really surprising to me. Meantime, Lightning making a run on this Panther, and that could be good. It could also be very, very bad. So bombs away. Gonna stress him, maybe. Stresses him out quite a bit, but not enough to really send him packing. One Mustang is going to go down, another one making runs at it, and being attacked by the two ME-109s. Pretty much the only thing that's kept Mastodon and Rhodesians Never Die in the fray is throwing in these ME-109s and Focke-Wulfs 2 at a time. Another Mustang dies, and that's how you break horses. Hayek's looking to close out this pocket, as some of his Shermans do go down, but there are a bunch of M10s trooping on in, and these guys are in some very weird positions, but still good enough to put pressure on the Pgrens, and potentially, just maybe, curve in behind these tanks if they want to get closer. M10, though, he's coming forwards, and I don't think he's going to see a whole lot until a little bit later here. SPW's taking some firepower, but if you're shooting at him, that means he can see you too, and I guarantee you he's a lot more armed than you are. Bouncing rounds, crew killed, there we go. That's the end of another recon unit. Typhoon comes on down. And I have no idea what he's shooting at. But whatever he was shooting at, he pretty much missed. Now between all of these lovely, lovely mortar rounds as well as these Panzerwerfers, not so good. And indeed, they're finally seeing the enemy artillery being noticed by the Allies. The question is, will that be enough to really be sending in a lot of material after them? Also going to see tons and tons of anti-air coming in. Verbelvins with their quad, was it 50 cal? No, flak fittings. Whoops, 50 cal, what was I thinking? 7.92 millimeter, I think, right? Well, that's a machine gun. And the quad mounted flak fitting. M10s, in the meantime, looks like they got picked up quite a bit. My guess is by this Panther, but another Panther indeed does go down, as these M10s just refuse to say die. 57mm getting hit as well by this ME-109, and these Germans, I think this is one of their final pushes here. Zoom on in here. It's the airborne rifles. Are they going to put pressure onto any of these attacking tanks? Well, not a ton, it looks like, and indeed, Gabreski comes in trying to put pressure on somebody, maybe just flying air cover, but for the moment, going to do pretty well. Airborne rifles, though, this has a great opportunity just to blow somebody up. How do you not see them? Oh my god, he's just barely out of line of sight for all of them. This is... oh, that's such a shame. That's really such a shame. Oh, that's hard. That's hard cheese to swallow. Now, these rebel fins in the area... no, they still can't be seen. Now, if they start coming over here into this open field, maybe we'll see a Zook or two. It doesn't look like it. Alright. Meantime, German right, these artillery pieces are getting resupplied, and the Canadians, which are making some really great positions before, advances before, are now bogged down, and that is a little bit of the problem with fighting a 4v4, because as great as your position might theoretically be, it is not going to easily be utilized here. Oof, tons of guys getting pinned down. Look at those bombs, doing some great, great work. And more shots being levied at this command area. The Sexton alone might get taken out by accident. No, it's getting forced back, though. Typhoon, where are you going, my friend? It's really kind of strange to see the decisions made in terms of air power, in terms of air targets. Now, realizing, of course, that a lot of this is what can be seen, but using 8 rockets to take out 1 infantry squad seems a little bit like overkill. Hummel, in the meantime, is completely Winchester on ammo. ME-109's coming in to fly air cover. But these Bofors are still here, my friend. So expect to see at least one of them getting blown to pieces, as now we are also seeing the incredible amount of Spitfires. There's one. There's 2. There we go. And the second one goes down. So while the Verbovins might be able to put pressure, that's not going to happen. And indeed, the rifles that were here, they are now cut off. SPW might find himself taken out, though. No, pinned down. He's going to be forced into a surrender. 57mm, he's going to have this Tiga in the flank, Panther, excuse me, I'm sorry. And from that range, even a baby could hit that shot. An exceptionally well-armed and well-coordinated baby who will someday become a sociopath. Alright, though, B-26 Marauder, here's a kind of a fun one. So the M2HB turrets just to kind of keep guys away from him, but these 450 kilogram bombs, 88 millimeters, putting rounds down range, but my friends, if these things hit this Panther at all, they're completely going to devastate him. Well, luckily for him, the bombs go just around him, his ally getting taken out just seconds before that, though, too. And we're seeing air cover being flown again by these Focke-Wulfs. So the 190 able to give some good safety against Gabreski, but not against Typhoon, which can make an attack at any time. But okay. 3 minutes to go, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see an Allied victory on this one, unless they completely fall apart. I don't think that's going to happen. And I think we're actually going to see ourselves gearing up for another fight as well. As High X is bringing in some more infantry. The question is, looks like maybe he's solidifying his position. But he's got some TUT barrages coming in. Fuel explosion on one of those Panthers. And might even see the Webelfin going down. Fairly concentrated attack. This one's a little bit more rushed. Oof. That's going to do some good damage right there. Freaking out a lot of material. And this Webelfin not quite ready to go down, but both Germans heading in that area, both German squads, excuse me, getting blown to shreds. And that now is a great opportunity to see these Shermans charging on forwards, looking pressure onto the 251s as well as the Sturm Pioneers. And I think this is High Explosives' big shove with the help of Argle Bargle. Luckily for Argle Bargle, he's not going to get hit too easily. This Panther G, however, will hit him pretty easily. And there goes one of the M4 Shermans. This Rhino's not going to last too much longer either. 3, 2, 1, and fire! Gonna freak him out if nothing else. Tiga. Yeah, that guy's pretty much dead. And there he goes. He is now down. And there goes the end of that particular fight, I would suggest. ISG is going down, and a big infantry rush coming on in. Pretty much all the Germans have left. Lining up right here and maybe going after this recon unit? No, that'd be really kind of a weird decision. With 90 seconds left, the Germans have lost. The Americans and their allies have won, and I'm surprised by that, actually, because I would have thought the beginning of this battle would have gone a lot more in favor of the Germans. Unfortunately, I guess that the light vehicles weren't used, perhaps, at the correct targets. If you recall, the 2nd Infantry does have Rangers that are very, very good beefy units. Hey, Rosenberg with a bike. But it doesn't look like we're going to see that happen. And didn't see really happen in this particular game. So, well done to the Americans. Definitely happened when the 101st was able to take this town, and that was able to happen when not the howitzers, but the portions of the howitzers as well as mortars were able to drop smoke rather effectively. So really, really well done to High Explosive. And Mastodon, my friend, Rhodesians never die. Mastodon kind of got hung out to dry for quite a bit until Rhodesians never die. Started to finally come over. You're starting to see his troops mixed in among everything here now. But it's just too late. It's just too late, my friends. Spitfire, one more bombing run, and bombs away. I think. Yep, missing completely, but still bombs away. So with an end score of what, 1362, 63 to 142, the Allies do pick it up. Congratulations to them. Bad luck to the Germans. I would have given them the early victory and then kind of pushing things later on into the game, but oh well. Now, in terms of Canadian, who actually was the owner of this particular replay, it does seem that Sherman was a decent fighter for him, as was his Achilles. Air cover doing pretty well, though, too. Now, what did a lot of damage to him, and this is kind of something that can be cast across most of the field. Packs were doing some good damage, but it really was these light vehicles early on that did put some good pressure. Unfortunately, they were not able to really tie up the later game. As their later armor did come in, they kind of lost it as the air cover started to really devastate them, I would suggest. Looking at the biggest loser, well, High X was the biggest winner, blowing away pretty much everybody by a good chunk in terms of kills, and just barely missing being the one with the least losses. The Scots managed to not take that many there. But folks, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for tuning in for this rather hefty 4v4. I am Con Ulrich, and I will see you guys all soon. Take it easy, everybody. Have a great day.